So there are a lot of defensive reinforcements. The defense was playing better at the end of the last year, which isn't saying all that much, but they were better. And I think this team could be dangerous.
That's Adam Schefter, a guy paid to be right more than he's wrong, putting his name on the word dangerous for a defense that finished dead last a year ago. Dog, that's a bold flag to plant in July.
There's no reason to be concerned about this offense at all. This offense has a chance to be the best in all of football.
That's the bull case in one breath. Best offense in football, allegedly. Now here's the record scratch. And even the guy delivering that hype admitted the pattern out loud, joking that every single July, ESPN's talking about the Jets in April and the Cowboys by summer, regardless of their record. That's not an insult from an outsider. That's an ESPN host clowning his own network's addiction to Cowboys hype before a single preseason snap.
I don't appreciate Dak Prescott, compelling people in the football world to want to throw up in the month of July. I mean, really, the season hasn't even started yet, and I already want to throw. I want to vomit.
Stephen A. Smith, ladies and gentlemen, physically nauseated by a quote from a virtual meet and greet. This is the same network, same building, probably the same week, and these two takes are not living on the same planet. Here's the setup, because this fight didn't come out of nowhere. Dak Prescott hopped on a fan call, said the quiet part every Cowboys quarterback has said for 3 decades, it's Super Bowl or bust, and framed it like a badge of honor. Normal enough. Except this year it landed differently, because Dallas actually spent the offseason acting as if they meant it. New defensive coordinator in Christian Parker, a first-round safety in Caleb Downs, Rashawn Gary and D. Winters brought in to rebuild a pass rush that had completely collapsed. On paper, this is the most aggressive Cowboys rebuild in years, and that's exactly why one half of ESPN is buying it, and the other half is bracing for the same 29-year punchline.
There really aren't any excuses for Dallas anymore.
That's Louis Riddick, and he's not just saying it, he's picking them to win the division on top of it.
I personally am picking them to win the division. I think they are the favorite in the division because of the work that they've done this offseason, because of Brian Schottenheimer's influence on this football team, and the fact that I think just man for man, I think they're better than Philadelphia right now.
Better than the defending champs man for man. That's not a hot take. That's a full-blown prediction with his name stapled to it. And this is where the story gets its real edge, because somebody on that same panel called out the double standard before Stephen A. even got a chance to swing.
So here's my problem with Stephen A. He's so disingenuous. Because if Dak Prescott had said in front of those people, you know what our goal is? We just want to make the damn playoffs, honestly. We just hope to make it. Stephen A. would be killing him for saying that.
That's the turning point of this whole segment right there. Dak's damned if he sets the bar high, damned if he doesn't, and the guy calling him out for it will find a reason to rip him either way. Which brings us to the actual receipts, because Stephen A. didn't just react with his gut. He came with a stat sheet built to bury the whole Super Bowl or bust idea before it even got out of the driveway.
You got 12 quarterbacks, CC, in the National Football League who have more postseason wins than Dak Prescott. One of them is Drake May, who's only in his 3rd season in the National Football League.
12. That number alone should end most debates about whether this team's built for a deep playoff run. And Stephen A. wasn't done. He dropped Dak's win percentage cratering from 63% in his cheap rookie contract years down to 58% once the $291 million extension kicked in. 3 losing seasons in the last 6 after 0 losing seasons in his first 4. And 26 missed games in the big money years after not missing a single one before the check cleared. He even reached back for DeMarcus Lawrence, pointing out the pass rusher had to leave Dallas entirely before he ever got his hands on a Super Bowl ring in Seattle. That's not a vibe. That's a decade of receipts stacked one on top of the other. So who's actually right? Here's the uncomfortable answer. Probably both of them, depending on which season you're grading. And that's exactly the tension that makes this fight worth having, because a former Cowboy sitting right next to Stephen A. wasn't willing to let the history lesson stand unchallenged.
I can't understand your take when it comes to these Dallas Cowboys, because for once in an offseason, we got the quarterback and the head coach setting the agenda for the team and not the owner and Jerry Jones.
That's a guy who actually wore the star on his helmet, pushing back in real time, and his argument is genuinely the most interesting thread in this whole fight. Not stats, not projections, culture. For 30 years, the noise around this franchise has been about Jerry Jones running his mouth in July. This year, Jerry's been quiet. The defensive coordinator search was reportedly the most thorough the front office has run in years, and the two guys actually driving the agenda are the head coach and the quarterback. That's a genuinely different setup than the last decade of Cowboys hype, even if the results on the field still have to prove it. And Canty didn't stop at culture. He pointed straight at what Brian Schottenheimer pulled off in year one, a first-time head coach who inherited a roster, traded away his best defensive player mid-season, dealt with a genuine tragedy in the locker room, and still had the team playing better football in November than it did in September. Stephen A's counter was blunt. An offense that was always going to be good doesn't excuse a historically bad defense, and you don't get credit for galvanizing a team that still missed the playoffs. Both of them are staring at the same 7-9-1 record and walking away with opposite conclusions about what it means. The offense side of this argument isn't nothing either. Dak led the entire league in completions last year, was third in passing yards per game behind only Matthew Stafford and Jared Goff, and Dallas was one of only 2 teams in football with a 4,000-yard passer, a 1,000-yard rusher, and 2 1,000-yard receivers on the same roster. That's real, verifiable production. The defense is the only variable nobody can prove yet, which is exactly why this argument keeps circling back to the same unanswered question all offseason. Now zoom out, because this fight isn't staying contained to one panel. Every single insider who's touched this story this month has landed somewhere on the same spectrum. Schefter's calling the defense dangerous, Riddick's picking them to win the division outright, Kyle Brandt's straight up admitting he's fallen for the hype again, joking that every July it's Cowboy season on ESPN whether they've earned it or not. And on the other side, Stephen A is treating the whole thing like a cautionary tale that gets rerun every 12 months, because history says the results never match the preseason noise. Here's why this actually matters beyond a fun panel shouting match. This isn't just a Cowboys story. It's a referendum on how much stock anybody should put in an offseason roster overhaul before a single snap gets played. Dallas spent 5 of their 7 draft picks on defense. They traded for proven veterans instead of betting on more rookies. If that defense actually climbs from dead last to even league average, Dak Prescott's offense is genuinely good enough to make this real. If it doesn't, we're doing this exact same debate again next July, word for word, stat for stat. So where does this leave us heading into the season? Dak's already put the target on his own back by saying the quiet part out loud. Stephen A's already got the receipts loaded for the moment this thing goes sideways. And somewhere in the middle, a genuinely revamped defense is about to get tested against real opponents instead of message board arguments. 30 years of the same punchline is a long time to keep believing the same promise. But this might be the first July in a while where the roster actually backs up the noise. Either way, ball don't lie. And by February, we'll know exactly which half of ESPN gets to say, "I told you so."